My name is Gianni Lee. I'm a visual artist from Philadelphia. First and foremost, it's probably like my location, but also my origins. So that goes back to being from Philly, but also living in New York, living and breathing what art is in New York. Philly, all in all, just like trained me and basically opened me up to the idea of like what graffiti is. A lot of like my old heads, like they were writers and they weren't like big writers. They just kind of like got into the idea of just writing their name. My first experience with graffiti was just some of like the drug dealers that were around my way. I remember seeing like him write his name so much and you would just start to see it around the neighborhood. And I thought it was cool. I didn't really think nothing of it, but I thought it was cool. Like, I don't know what it was about it. And he wasn't necessarily an artist. He really was into the idea of letting people know where he was from, letting people know what territory was his. I think that was my early introduction to it. And I just thought that it was cool that someone just had the, I guess the bravery to do that. At that time I was younger, so I thought just everything was a crime. I thought everything was illegal, because that's kind of like what you're taught as a child. It was just interesting to see him do that and to really go out into the world, me being just a young kid and 8, 9, and I'm actually seeing his name around like different parts of West Philly. And it was his nickname. So I know I wasn't the only person that saw it. So I don't know if how much that played into his legacy, but you fast forward into me being somewhat of a graffiti writer myself. I really wouldn't call myself that because I'm not really what would define someone as a graffiti artist, but I definitely got inspired and I definitely take those elements into my practice when I paint outside. For me, it's the same thing. I want everybody to see, that little skeleton figure, and I want them to see it everywhere, and I want you to remember like, oh, that's the guy that did it, even if you don't know me. And that's kind of like what made me take my work to the streets, because I just wanted that direct communication, that direct dialogue with people, and you don't get that being in the gallery. You don't get to breathe, and you don't get to breathe the same air as people. You don't get to talk to everyone. So then when we bring Afro-futurism into it, I think that's just me applying my identity to it. The skeletal figure isn't Afro-futurism, but it innately is Afro-futurism because I'm a black person in what I consider the future, sharing my experience in the real world, in real time, for people to digest it in whatever way that is. A lot of my work in general is about the idea of like this alien being. So you'll see it again, even in like all of them. You see it over and over again, the idea of like these blue hands, these blue bodies. It's just me telling my story, but giving black people a little bit more of like fantasy, because I feel like we're not always depicted as like fantasy elements, and I think black people, especially like black women, in essence, are aliens to me, like in like the most beautiful, pristine way I can think of. Like I just look at black women that way, and I feel like they need to be depicted as such, like aliens, otherworldly beings, like, you know what I mean? And I don't feel like they're always depicted as such in like, modern media. So I'm gonna make sure black people in general, I'm gonna make them look like superheroes, make them look like aliens, just make them look like what we're not used to seeing them look like. I really would think even like my practice in general, it's all over the place. Like I can't say that I like one thing. I like all things. I like anime. I like the old photos of like the black girl sitting on the porch getting her hair braided by her mother. Like those paintings are beautiful to me. Black people looking like superheroes with armor, and you know what I mean? When I was young, I used to draw Dragon Ball Z characters like everyone else, but I would make them black. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or seeing a little boy see a black action figure and totally just connect with that. When Static Shock came out, we connected with Static Shock because he looked like us. That's a black DC comic book hero. Seeing some of our favorite superheroes become, get rewritten as black, I think that's like powerful, and that's like what Afrofuturism is. And like innately, that's what my work is: painting a picture or telling a story using a character that looks like me. And I try to do that through and through with my street practice as well as like my gallery practice.